Hello everybody, and welcome to this tutorial in which I will show you the process how we can send this furniture piece which we created in Fusion 360, including the three-dimensional wood material, and bring this over to Blender, retexture it, and then create a nice rendering. What is really interesting is how do we solve the problem of representing actual materials of a three-dimensional volume like the wood, because these faces are textured by a three-dimensional wood material. And for everything that's kind of boxy, we can simply create a small wood slab and then take screenshots of it, create a UV layout. You see the end grain, the side grain, etc. And then we bring everything into Blender. Here's, for example, the leg. You see there, I UV mapped everything, applied the textures, and then we can be creative with lights and create some fun, nice renderings like this one. Okay, with all that said, let's do it. Before we export everything to Blender for rendering, we have to adjust our scene here a little bit. The main problem we will encounter is that the wood material that's being used in this design here is a volumetric, a 3D material. You only have access to this inside Fusion and in no other program. So the shortcut is that we will create individual screenshots of the wood material from these views and then glue them back onto that geometry. To make life a little bit easier, I'm going to delete these fillets, because then this I can very easily texture in Blender, and these fillets I can or these edges I can refill it in Blender or any program. Very good. Okay, so that was basically the manipulation for the geometry. How do we now create the individual screenshots for all these parts? We're not going to just zoom in and make a screenshot of each part. We're going to do it this way. I'm going to develop our own veneer. So I will create somewhere a nicely big rectangle, kind of like square. It's good. Very good. So, and this piece I will extrude 2 inches. 2 inches because these legs are roughly 2 inches, a little bit smaller than 2 inches. So I make this block a tick bigger so that I have a little bit of kind of like material to work with. So on this block now, I'm going to project actually this material. And there we are. Very nice. Good. So if I go to the front view, now you can see the grain has the wrong orientation, but it's fine. But easily this piece I can map onto here. So this has to be bigger than the biggest surface we textured in our model. So maybe this I will even make a tick bigger, just to show you how easily it is to develop the veneers. The veneer is also rotated, or the wood material. So I will select the object, right click, texture control, and just rotate it. Very nice. Then I can go to side view, move this around. I can go to this view, maybe here and there. I have now actually also the rings. You see how I can play with everything and create now individual screenshots from this much bigger piece. Okay, cool, no? So let's actually do the easiest part. That's doing all the screenshots. So all this I select, press V to hide, and this goes. Then I zoom in, try to get as close as possible, like this. Very good. And then we can go to File, Capture Image. You will by default have current document size. Here in this case it is a 1920 by 900. This is okay, but I want this to be bigger. So custom, and then I double this up from 1900 to 4000. Transparent background, all this can be turned on. Okay, very good. And now here I call this veneer front. Okay, and I save this on the desktop. Very important now, instead of zooming in, I only change the view and just position it. So no zooming. It has to be the same scale. Export. I can call this a veneer top. And then the same also from here. Veneer and disconnect the end grain. Very good. So press V to show everything again. So all the models are done. This actually we can delete. We don't need it anymore. We have exported our texture. And now we can go ahead and say right click, save as mesh, OBJ. The unit system has to be meters. So it comes into Blender 1:1. This is a very simple design, so we can easily go with high because it's not very, very dense. Very good. And click OK. And then I will export it to the desktop. Okay, so that's pretty much everything what we have to do in Fusion. Now on the desktop, here you see there is the OBJ export, and here are the 3 exported images. So this first image I will open in Pixelmator. You can use Photoshop or whatever image editing program you have access to. I will adjust here the canvas size, pixel, so 4000 by 4000. So I just make this a square. Very good. Very nice. So into this rectangle, then I will drag actually these other images too. You see, now perfectly snap into it. There we are. And then I can use the crop tool and I crop it proportionally. So this is still a rectangle, not, it's still a square, not like a rectangle. So very good. So 3100 something by 3100. Very nice. Thank you. And this is actually now my UV veneer image, which I'm going to send out. So I export this simply as a PNG. That's fine. I can call this maybe veneer UV. Very good. And there we have it. And now we are ready to bring the geometry into Blender, replace the legs, texture everything, and then design the scene and render. So let's do it. In Blender now, I am pressing A, delete everything. I make sure my scene is set to meters, import OBJ. There's my OBJ, Y forward, Z up, and split by group, import. And I can zoom in, and you see here I have all the individual bodies. Beautiful. Cool. Okay. Very nice. So this design is actually a square. So these legs I can actually select and delete. Select this one. You see, because everything was nicely modeled symmetrically. This is the midpoint. If I go from below, now there you can see, perfectly centered. I will add a mirror modifier along the X and Y axis. And technically speaking, I can even do the same with these pieces here. The only issue here is I can make a mirror along the Y-axis, okay, but I can't really go the opposite side because it is, unlike the legs, not left of the Y-axis, it is centered on it. So if I would make an X mirroring, it's just right there. What I can do, however, is we can make a copy, or what we want to do is make a clone. So to make a clone, this is actually a duplicate linked. The control is Control D, and then now you can move around, press R to rotate, and then type in 90 and enter. So we made a clone. which then after you pressed Alt D or Option D, you instantly move command. We override it by pressing R, 90 for the degrees, enter, done. So this means now if I modify this or if I modify this, they are all actually linked. So this I only have to do one time and this one time. Very good. Okay, so to do the UV unwrapping, we need to take a look at the image editor. And then here, right click, split vertical UV image editor. I mean, shader editor, UV editor. Okay. Okay, so we can select maybe this body, Shift H, hide everything else. We can zoom in a little bit. We can turn on the material preview. No, we don't really see anything. That's okay. So when I go to here, you see we have two different materials, or I also have actually slot 1 and slot 2. No? So these are the two different materials. So plastic. If I change this to orange, now you can see this is everything that maybe is spray painted. So that's kind of like it's done. And the oak, unfinished, that's the one we would like to adjust. So I go to here, maybe if I change the color, there you can see, so this is the front part. Very nice. I'm also oak unfinished. Then I can go to add. We need to bring in the screenshot or the veneer we created. Image texture node, open desktop. There it is. And then I drag this one onto there. Whoa, that looks kind of funny. Okay, no problem. We might have to unwrap this correctly. We go to edit mode now. AA, go to the face select. We have here the material. When I click select, it selects all the geometry that is using actually this material. So you see only the front faces are selected. Very handy. And then here I will open now the Veneer UV. When I zoom out, whoa, there it is, quite large. Okay, not a big deal. So what we do, I press A and S to scale, and I scale this one down. Here I'll go back and show the material so you can see what's happening. With G, I can move this to there. With R and 90, I rotate it to 90 degrees. And with S, I can scale this more. And then with G, I can move this around where on this, from this image, I want this texture to show up on the veneer. So you see it's kind of like a direct, stenciling. If I make this very small, it's only kind of like a zoomed version of the veneer. If I make this really bigger, then you see it covers other elements. Now, obviously, it is good to know how long is this piece, like in Fusion, how long would this piece be in Fusion, so I know the kind of like the correct, correct looking width. We can keep it like this. Okay, very good. So, yeah, this is actually not too bad. So this should be untreated wood. We can make this roughness down, specularity, we can keep at 0. So this is just only plain cut, no lacquer on it. And then here the plastic, so the paint, we can maybe give this a 0.5 reflectivity on it and maybe a 0.1 for the roughness. We don't really see much yet, but you can see if you move around, there's a little bit of, shimmering happening. Alt H, show everything else. Can select the main box. This shares the same material, so this is all good. I could also here call this wood paint white, glossy, however you want to name this. And then here, this veneer, we can call oak veneer. Now, if I go to this little piece here, this is the next easier part. I press Tab to go into edit mode. I press A to make everything selected. Go to here. There I see all the parts. Very good. I press A. And then I could scale this down. But hold on. Let's do a little trick. We select both objects. Press Tab. Press A. And you see I can now actually access in the UV editor all the faces of both at the same time. So it's not like scaling one by one. I can scale them more or less kind of like equal. And now I know here that this is 2 inches. These pieces maybe are plus minus kind of like an inch and a half. I can, for example, select this. So this is in Fusion 1.5 inches. When I press A to select everything and I bring this to there. Yeah, so scaling this down a little bit more. This feels good. Okay. Now what I can do now essentially is move everything around so it makes sense. I have a lot of triangles here. By the way, if I go to face trees to quads with everything selected, I might actually end up with a lot of the faces cleaned up into rectangles. Now I see that's a lot easier. Here's this edge, X and dissolve, not delete. That fixed that. Very good. So now I can simply go ahead and say, so this face, bring to there. I select this face, maybe this piece, and then here, this one, maybe there. Very good. No, you see, I move this around. Because these are all clones, they all have exactly the same texturing. That's the downside of this process. But if I only see this from here, and the others I don't see, here this will be more noticeable. So to fix this issue, instead of doing mirror, I make individual lags, but for the sake of this video, to be shorter, I simply have one lag, which I texture, and then use a mirror command. So this one here, this is going to be interesting. You see how the veneer is vertical. That's not really what I want. So this face and this face, there I have. I can actually press L, Control M and X, and you see how I Control M and X, I've mirrored it along the x-axis. Then I move this to there. And I need to figure out, so this is wider, this is smaller. So this is the tip here. And so this corner here is down there. Okay, good. Which means this is actually this outer edge. So I press R and rotate and try to make this line here horizontal. You see that I can just nicely position it there. So this way now, you can see how I'm rotating the veneer. So I can match it so that the grain of the veneer runs kind of like with this edge. Easy peasy. And to make this also look a little bit more realistic, maybe this should be maybe somewhere else so that the left and the right side aren't the same. So what do we do with this piece? So first A and R, this has to be straight. This is actually more piece that would be, having the material from there. And the same also with this one. R, straighten it and bring it to there. Very good. And then this one, that's always the piece where I see people don't know how to texture wood. This has to get an N grain, like look there. So from a distance, this looks very believable. If we get closer, now we can see, it's still not 100% correct because these pores don't show up here, but it's fine. This is a detail most people wouldn't even notice. Very good. Okay, so how do we do now the edges? That's very easy. I go back to edit mode. Left mouse button, click and shift, select these two edges, then N, bevel weight 1, very good. I can leave edit mode, then I go to modifier and say here, a bevel modifier. I drag this one on top. So the sequence is basically that this object is beveled and then mirrored. The beveling is kind of insane. 0.25 inches, by the way. That's the value. Or if you want to go back to inches, we go scene imperial inches. There we have this. Segments 10, because we don't want to have just a chamfer. And I don't want all edges to be rounded. I just want the edge rounded that I gave this weight. There. Look at that. Ta-da. And the nice thing is this command then blends between the textures, and there is actually a noticeable line if you really look for it, but it's so well calculated nobody's going to see it. So beautiful. Turn this on. Now talking about this bevel modifier, let's go to here. We see that we have the box and there's no gap, which is kind of like not realistic. So let's add small fillets to it. Z in wireframe or Z in solid. Yeah, solid is good. Bevel modifier, maybe 1 millimeter and 1, it's fine. It's kind of like breaking this edge. And select this. Also here, bevel 1 millimeter. Zoom in. How does this work? Z and wireframe. Yeah, you can see there's a really tiny line. Okay. So this is like a super quick fix to issue this. So if we turn this off, now we can see something's kind of missing. We can also make this 10, then actually more is being rounded. This is also a very basic geometry, so this effect actually will work really well. There can be issues where there are self-intersecting issues, and we notice here there's something happening. Or maybe this is just only a shading. Right click, yeah, I think it's just only a shading. Yeah, it's not super good for the rendering, it's fine. Again, this is just a little bit of trickery. I go back with 1, right click, shade smooth, with auto. There we are. Okay. It will just look in the rendering nicer when these edges aren't super sharp, but there's a tiny highlight on it. Okay, very nice. So we have actually now this element or this furniture piece textured. We adjusted also some of the edges. We can now actually go ahead and very quickly design an environment with some lights, etc. I would like to have the furniture piece sitting on the ground on a wooden floor against a wall, maybe with a baseboard. For the textures, I went to Architecturesorg. This is actually a really great site where you can find and generate actually all types of different construction materials. I go here to this oak stretcher. Go edit. So you can see how much fun you can have there. We have, for example, different types of kind of patterns you can adjust. So it's actually pretty cool. You can also adjust kind of like this is maybe 4 inches wide and then 20 inches long. can specify how many of those do we have. So let's say 4. So now the pattern of the image is being created. It's kind of like in this blue dotted line. And then to the left, to the right, top and bottom, it can tile. Works really good. That's actually quite cool. Maybe 12. See if we can make a kind of like a rectangular piece. 6 there. Okay. And then simply download sample resolution. Yep, this is all good. And it goes on to the desktop folder. Now, back to Blender. I will first create a plane. Or actually, yeah, let's go with a plane. That's very good. There we are. I can give this a specific dimension. So let's say this whole thing should be 10 feet by 10 feet. A big room. Very nice. Then object, apply, scale. This I would like to give a material. I can do this right inside here, the shader editor, new wood floor. There we are. Very good. And I will go here to my downloaded file and I move this to the desktop. That's where actually I'm going to save also this file. So save desktop, rendering Sidestand. Very good. The reason why I put everything onto the desktop is because now when I select this plane and I'm going to say add image texture, there we are, open. You see all these files are on the same directory, desktop, and later I can copy this all into one folder and move this folder to a secure location. Open, bring this to there. Then we can go to UV texturing. There we are. Looks kind of okay. Very good. Maybe it does not have the rotation I need. So 2 ways how to do this. If I go to edit mode, open here this geometry, press A. To select the rectangle, I can press R and 90 and rotate it. And you see how this adjusts everything. I can, however, do this also here. So I go add input texture coordinates. So yeah, I have my UV. The UV goes into vector. Nothing changed because now I would like to adjust the vector. So I need another command, and that is the mapping there. And then with this, as you see, I can rotate it 90, for example. Pretty easy. Okay. This is also a rectangular piece. So if I go to edit mode, you see that this is not rectangular. I mean, this is a square and this is a rectangle. This should match. So I press U and UV unwrap. You see now, hey, haha, this is now a rectangle. Okay, very good. So if I now then go to scale, type in click and drag, maybe 2, you see how I can get more of these elements in. And I noticed, oh, interesting. I need to match this. That's interesting. It should actually UV unwrap from view A, scale up. That's an interesting discovery because, oh no, this is just an illusion. I thought really the image was distorted, but actually it is not. It's actually pretty accurate. So you unwrap, very good. I thought really from when it was rotated, the view was distorted, but it was not. So when we do a scale, let's say 4, we're adding more in and we scroll up and down. Yeah, you can see now this looks actually pretty good. Yeah, it's a really nice tiling. Perfect. Okay, so kind of like this is done. 90 or 45. No, it's really up to you how you want to do this. This is good. Okay, now we need a camera very quickly. So front view, add camera. Turn on the move command there and back. There we are. We move the camera up. We don't actually rotate the camera. Here, right click, split, T and N, and then we click on the camera view. There we are. In this camera now I would like to show a little bit of the top of the furniture piece, but now also show the bottom. But before I do this, I want to go to here and set this to 1000 by 1000. So it's a rectangular camera frame. And then with the camera selected, I can move this down. And you see how the image just simply goes up and down. And that is very different than rotating. You see how this perspectively distorts it. That's not very nice. There. Maybe zoom in a little bit. Maybe with a 70 lens. Yeah, there we are. Not too bad. Okay. This is kind of oddly standing in the center, so I will bring this a little bit back. Now we need a wall. Let's go to Edit, Edge Select. Then I can press E and Z and drag this one. Maybe how far do we drag this up? 10 inches and enter. Also here you see I move this up 10 inches. I'm in inches. Then I press E and Y and 1, so 1 inch back, and E and Z, let's say 8 feet. See, 8 feet, when you work in inches, it doesn't understand, but we can type in 8 feet this way. Okay. Now this looks kind of funny, and it's all okay because the texture is completely wonky. Not a big deal. So first, what we can do is maybe looking into this, the spaceport is way too big. So this face, I will actually move down by -4 inches. Okay, this feels better. -5. Make a small one. Thank you. Then these two faces here I will select. I will go to Material, Plus, and say New Material, Baseboard, can be white, a little bit reflective, a little bit glossy, and Assign. So now on these faces I assigned that material. I can select this wall, or Mesh, New Material, Wall, Assign, and we can just make this a matte material. There we are. Very good. Press Tab to leave edit mode, and you see, we kind of like created a nice looking piece. That's pretty cool. Now we need to have a light, so let's go add area light. This area light I move up, maybe to here. Then at this point it's important to maybe switch to cycles so we can do an actual nice rendering. Here I scroll wheel so I can see this part of the interface, or I press Z and render it, or click on this ball here. Ah, look at that. Yeah, not too bad. Okay. We can play a little bit with the looks, maybe bring this back so we can see this line there, or get this closer. And this is basically when via rendering you start adjusting your design. Maybe here this face I want to go down even more. Yeah, so it's not so noticeable, pretty nice. Okay, here, this material now I can select. So this is the paint. Yeah, we said this is specular, very good. This is the wood. We can make this a little bit like it's coated there, and maybe a little bit of roughness to it. We also have the floor. So here's the wood floor, and the wood floor 0.1 we can make nice and glossy too. Okay, very nice. And then we're going to play, for example, with the lights. Whoops, that's the wrong icon. There, that is the light. So do we move this more to the front? Now you can see we're shooting the light right down onto it from behind. It's actually quite cool. Shift D, bring a light to the side. I'm just shining it down, no? Look at this really beautiful detail that's happening there. Shift D, maybe a piece there. I'm just experimenting. R minus 90, so it shines actually onto the wall. Now you see that. Might go to the camera. Go to denoise, set this to 10 and set samples to 10. So the denoising kicks in always really fast. Very good. Oh, it starts getting interesting. Shift D, maybe to the front. R, rotate it so it shines right into the front. That's kind of boring. So X and delete. That's interesting. What about we go with this plane and G in top view, and I move it behind there, and then I am adjusting the size to rectangle, and you see here now I'm scaling this, and then here maybe this light and this light I delete for the moment. Oh, that's quite interesting. So now we're illuminating the object by having a light right behind it that shoots light onto the wall. No, be creative. Okay. What happens when maybe we bring this light into the box under it? Also, why not? No, maybe there's a light that actually goes down. There's a light that's in the back. So I really like this idea with the light and the furniture. So I delete all lights now. Shift A, make a new area light. I move this right on top. This is really strong. So maybe 1.5. So it's kind of weak. Okay. Shift D, move this one up. Make another light, put this in there. We have environmental light running. So I can make this white. So you see it's there, and 0 to turn it off. So now it's really pitch black. Okay, that's quite interesting. Now you can just play with this and then see now what do you want. So this is maybe an interesting idea. And to bring this on an end, I would like to have a nice light from the left and maybe a fill light from the right. So Shift A, area light, I move this to here. This has to be quite bigger. Maybe, yeah, like this. G, move this up. This shines straight down. I can also shine the light actually more onto it. Can also move this around, and you can see how it's casting this highlight onto it. It actually brings up the question, what happens when we move this further back? Now pay attention to the drop shadow behind. Now this is too confusing. Yeah, maybe one this way, very good. Shift A, another area light. I move this to here, to the side, go up. Yeah, I'm just shooting out a little bit of light. I can rotate this minus 90 or 90 actually, bring this over to there. This light can be much softer, 5. And we're kind of like reaching the end of this exercise. So this geometry or this light, I will now move actually, yeah, back behind an R and 90 and minus. I think this actually was really good to have this kind of funny glow behind there. What I'm kind of like demonstrating to you here is how you can be very creative with lights. You can also look up maybe some actual examples and then play with the illusions of it. It's kind of like there's an interesting glow happening behind. Shift D and Z. What about we do the same also at the bottom? Yeah, this is really distracting there. So the slide I will delete. Okay. I could, as maybe one additional material to show you, Z and stop. Here's my backdrop. I hide this. Z is solid. Go to here and edit. Then actually I press A and say 3 to quads there. So I have less work. Hue with shift. I'm selecting all these triangles here. Thank you. These triangles, check this out. I'm giving a new material, assign, and I call this furniture light. Very good. Okay. Maybe make this blue. Hold on, actually, because this is going to be light. Alt H, or we drop this back in. So what we can do now is Z and start the rendering. I scroll down here. Look there, it says emission. This is black. Well, black means there's no light. If I set this to white, you see there's a shimmer behind. If I set this to 100, the whole back of this furniture piece actually illuminates light. So this is, for example, how you can add light to the geometry. I could, for example, have selected also here this lower face of this one and add this furniture light to it. There you can see it shines down. Maybe a little bit too strong. 2.5, so half of it. Okay, very nice. One last maybe test is Shift A, add a spotlight. Let's see, what can we do with a spotlight? We can bring the spotlight right onto it. Maybe for the moment I select the area lights and hide them. Oh, that's kind of interesting too. Now you see how with this halo it can illuminate actually everything. Then it has a strength and also a spot size and a softness. Do you want this to be very sharp edge or very soft edge? Oh, it's actually quite interesting. Doesn't really have the impact I was looking for, so I deleted Alt H, show the other pieces again. All good. Last thing we need to work on is, for example, the wooden floor. It looks kind of crazy. Particularly here, we can see the reflection is wrong. So we do a very quick trick. In the editor here, Shift A bump. Then we go to this a little bit dirty what I'm doing. I am actually doing a color ramp. The color ramp goes into the color here. And then this goes into the height. And then this goes into the normal. distance 0.1. And might be easy to turn this off for the moment. Now we can see everything what we see. So it is a bump mapping actually. You see it creates a structure on it. 0.01. Actually, I will leave this on 1 because I can show you what this thing here is. You see how I am limiting what is going to be bumpy or scratched up and what is smooth. So I can play with this a little bit to make it a little bit ununiform. Maybe like this, not perfect, but for what we're trying to do here, this is sufficient. 0.01. So there's a really subtle roughness on it. And then this color I can put back. Now we can see now, yeah, some things are kind of rough, some are stronger, or with this material here. Maybe this was too extreme. We can also adjust the strength to make it softer. The distance basically means now how high are these grooves, and the strength is kind of like the oval effect. The same also applies to the wood. We can also here select this wood very quickly. Let's make this super reflective. Turn this off so we can see actually how this works. I make this black so the reflection is perfect, easy to see. Color ramp, okay, and then rip, and this into the color ramp and bump. Zip. The nice thing is at the beginning this might be a little bit confusing, but over time you start noticing it's always the same steps. 0.1. Now see here, just lowered the strength, and there's some sort of a wood grain noticeable. And to see this color ramp output maybe better, you see how I put this into the color node. And then when I drag this, I can pay attention to where is what happening. So I'm trying to find something where I have nice, kind of like a pattern with thin black lines, kind of like pores, which are scratched in. Yeah, like this. Okay. Zip, you go over. And then when this would be reflective, you would, oh, we need something to reflect on it. Currently we don't, but you see it on the ground actually, how the reflection is broken up. Okay, 0.5, maybe 0.1, because it's not super rough. Okay, very nice. So there we are. To do now a nice rendering, we can stop the rendering here. We can go to there. Because of the fine materials, we also have a denoiser which can kick in. And there's no best number here for the max value. Maybe 100, we can do a test rendering and see how does this work. 200, 400. Now you have to see what value is time-wise still doable and at what value, lower value, does the denoiser start blurring out the textural details. I can render this, or I could render this with the GPU. I'm currently screen sharing, so I'm just keeping this off. All good. Then we can go to output. We will render this to the desktop. The image size 1000 by 1000. Now we can, for a test render, make maybe a 50 hit render. And it creates this rendering, 50%. And there we see like it goes up to 200. And look, actually now here you can see how this kind of like really looks like a rough surface because of the bump mapping. And also down here, this looks actually quite nice. So you can also use this final rendering as a test to, for example, see how do things work when I now do the same rendering, but without the bump mapping active. And there we are. Now you can see this looks better. Yeah, this looks like a print. Very good. This then from here, we can just go save as and save it to the desktop with the name you want to give. And that basically is everything what I wanted to show as a quick creative introduction, how we can texture such a furniture piece, which has painted wood and actual real wood, but we create this as, or recreate it as a fake veneer in a different program. Or basically, I mean, we recreated the three-dimensional wood as two-dimensional images and then retextured this 3D model in Blender. And with the lights you see, it's really a matter of playing around. I find this very often is the best way to create nice product presentations. Instead of just forcing it all into one system, trying to see, play around. Does something work? Could this be interesting? Try it out. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't work. And then this way I find very easily you can achieve nice looking renderings. Okay, bye-bye.